Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Mathcast podcast. Today we are joined by a sports scholar and a Math Leap student. Today we are joined by Sophia Zed, who will join us to discuss the paradox that states that it's impossible to hit a dartboard. Without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so we'll start by explaining this paradox. It starts with a dart and a dartboard, and the question is that we're trying to find the probability of the darts hitting anywhere on the board.
So, I think what we should do is we should start by assuming that there is, 100% chance of hitting somewhere on the board. And since we don't want a scale to come into play, and we want to know the probability of the exact center of the dart hitting any point on the board, assuming each point has equal chances of, being hit.
So we know that it's going to be more than zero. The probability is going to be more than zero, so it's not going to be impossible since we're assuming that you can't miss, so there's only one dart to be hit. But if it's going to be more than zero, well, there's a problem. Because if it's more than zero for 1 point, well, there are infinitely many points. So is that an infinite probability?
Well, Hannah, this is a problem since, probability isn't only between 0 and 1. Sorry, it is only between 0 and 1. It's either impossible, guaranteed, or somewhere in between.
So just to clarify our problem, there are an infinite number of points on the board and a greater of zero chance hitting just one of the points, which means there's a greater than zero chance of hitting all the points.
Well, you might be thinking that this is, stupid, ridiculous, or, makes no sense since you can't clearly throw a dart at a dartboard without missing. There's no problem.
That would be a great point if you're thinking like that, which is why when we start thinking about what really causes this paradox, it's actually because we're talking about a mathematical point, not a real life point with an area, since if in real life you're throwing a dart at a board, this dart will have an area. It won't be a mathematical point like we're assuming. And since it's a mathematical point, there are infinitely many mathematical points, since you can keep zooming into one point and getting more precise with your measurement, and that's the cause of this paradox.
But Hannah, the problem it's not that quite satisfying to think about in the real world, because as us or as humans, we want to understand all there is to know. But unfortunately, this is the reason for it being a paradox. It just how do I put it? It kind of just hurts your mind. It's sort of like a loop, just like infinity.
Hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, make sure to check out these videos too, which discuss more about the fascinating properties of infinity.